I'm a new DPT student, just started
nice.
A few weeks ago. Yeah.
Nice.
And part of the reason I've fallen in love with rehab and stuff is looking at your model and looking at Bill's model and learning about all the principles you guys talk about. And to be honest, I found myself a bit in like an echo chamber of everybody I follow and listen to online. Kind of is in the same vein. And I was just wondering who, if anyone, has sort of like criticisms or whatever of this model, because I personally really like it. I just want to be like self-aware of, you know, when I'm talking to, like, let's say professors or whomever who don't know about it or aren't in agreement with it, sort of what they think or what biases might come into play when you're so far down the rabbit hole into this model. And I'm just curious what you think of that.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's something I struggle with personally as well, because a lot of it, and again, my bias, because Bill's been my mentor, is like, I always try to think about what is the counterpoint to what he says or what I think, and it's really tough for me to find what that is, because a lot of this is based on the principles of physics, and so it's like, well, what's the counterpoint to physics? I don't know. I mean, we know physics doesn't have all the answers because the two big theories in physics, relativity and quantum, do not mesh together. So we know it's an incomplete model. But I think, go ahead.
Well, first, I guess I'm not dangerous enough in physics to be somebody who brings up counterpoints to Bill's model, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's one issue. I guess maybe I should get better at the fundamentals.
That's where I'm focusing most of my learning right now.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say is, I guess people who aren't into Bill's model would be more of, you know, people who like what he would say, dead guy anatomy, or like the lever system of movement. Have you heard anybody who, subscribes to that and does not agree with Bill's model say anything poignant that made you think?
No, I haven't, that's the thing, I haven't seen anyone come to challenge the biomechanics sides of things. What I have seen people challenge, and it's a fair point, is to what extent does it matter? I think you get a lot of people where it's, okay, you know, we just try to improve all this movement, but then we don't produce, but then we're potentially eliminating qualities of strength, power, things like that. Or you get people who are very well versed into the biopsychosocial model, and they emphasize a lot of the psycho and the social things, and then it's like, are we being counterproductive on that front? And that's a fair point.
Yeah, I've heard like the likes of Greg Lehman talk about, like, kind of say biomechanics is less important, and I've heard lots of trainers talk about how, they always make fun of PRIs, like blowing balloons and stuff on the ground, and how that's nothing like the qualities that they're facing in sport or whatever their demands of real life are. So yeah, I see your points about who generally criticizes these theories.
Yeah. But at the same time too, I think when you criticize anything, or anyone for that matter, the most important thing that you should do before throwing that into the mix is you need to understand where that person's coming from, and then be able to summarize back to them in a way that it's so good that they wish they would have said it that way. And maybe I just haven't met that person, but in those scenarios, I just don't see that. Because the people who criticize some of the breathing-based exercises, I haven't met anyone who understands it so well that they know what I'm going after, and then they can't say why that's wrong. And but at the same time too, like, if I ever, and I don't really criticize a whole lot of people because I don't think.
Yeah, and I don't mean criticism in a way that's like derogatory. I just mean in like more academic.
Yes. Not like Well,
Yeah,
your
not like
hair's
you're
funny, or you
terrible.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
you're a terrible human being. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. When I'm saying criticize, I mean like the concept, the respectful concept. Yeah. Whereas we're not having those conversations, and that's actually one reason why I like this format is because, I could type something on the keyboard, and you might take it a certain way, but I might not have intended it that way. So what I would encourage you to do is I think the people who may go against this model is maybe you find someone who maybe thinks about the biomechanics differently. Maybe that is some professors. Maybe that's some of your colleagues, and you have a specific problem in mind where it's like maybe you got this person with condition X, and you say, well, hey, how would you go about tackling this? And then they might say this, and this, and then you might go with them and then just say, well, have you considered this? Or why do you think that? So what I would do then is try to really understand the other person's thought process, and then, again, see if you can summarize, hey, this is where I think you're coming from. Am I correct? And if they say yes, and then you could look at approaching it from your model, and then they might have something that counterpoints that you didn't think about. And that's where I really think you can have better dialogue, conversations that get closer to the truth, because that's ultimately where we're going for. It has to be through conversation. It has to be with someone who maybe thinks differently. Because I'll tell you what, even people who subscribe to the model that I use, the model that Bill uses, we're all coming at it from different angles as well. But it's having those conversations that I think we're sorely lacking. Yeah. I appreciate that. But hopefully that answers. But I mean, it's, if you know anyone, Charles, who is like, hey, they know the model well, and they have some issues with it, I'd be happy to chat about it. But the thing that I struggle with the most is how relevant is it? And it seems relevant to my population, but my population is generally people in pain, or they're beat up, or they're athletes who need to move in multiple directions. And, well, if they don't have the ability to get into those directions, I'm going to find a variety of ways to get them there. And it's not just lying on your back all the time. I think that's a very common misconception people have. We get people, the concepts apply throughout the entirety of movement. I just don't know. I don't know what the counterpoint is to physics and looking at movement the way we are. But I'm dying to find it.
Dude, I would love to hear somebody have like a respectful sort of chat with you or Bill in like a public forum. That'd be awesome. Or I mean, or Pat. I follow Pat Davidson pretty closely too, and he uses a lot of the principles in your mind.
Yep.
You know what? You did mention one time in one movement debrief, and I'm sorry if I'm keeping you too long right now. You can cut me off.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay. You did mention one time in one movement debrief that Bill's model works really well for the lower extremity and works really well for, I think you said the thorax, but maybe not as well for the upper extremity. And correct me if I'm wrong if that's not what you said, but if you do remember saying that, could you expand on that a little bit?
I would say at this point, having spoken more with Bill, having applied more things and looking at the concepts, I think conceptually things apply everywhere. And and it's like and I think, again, it's been a while since I've said that. I think the one place where I've had a harder time was neck up, not necessarily extremities. I think, I know what I said now. What I meant in the extremities is the biomechanics were less clear. That's what I said. I actually remember when I said this. But having studied the biomechanics more myself, it is a lot clearer in my mind. The thing where it's confusing is because, like, the elbow is the knee, but the issue is the knee is pointing forward and the elbow is pointing backward. So you got to kind of flip the mechanics in some respects. So no, I think it still is probably the most complete model that we have currently, and I stress that because I have no doubt it's going to change next year, 20 years from now. That it makes a lot of sense, and even just applying the same concepts to stuff in the cranium, like it, in terms of tongue placement and things like that, like it all makes sense. I just haven't. It does bother me that I don't know what the counterpoint is. So.
Yeah, same. I mean, you make such a compelling case in almost every time you talk. I just don't even know how people would. I mean, first of all, I don't think this is my second week of physical therapy school, and I don't feel like I'm qualified enough to know everything or to comment on everything yet. I don't know if I ever will, because there's so much literature out there, but you and Bill are so compelling when you speak, and same with Pat, and I don't know whom else, a lot of other people who are who articulate well the thoughts that and principles of this model. But if you find somebody like that, please have them on your show and chop it up, because I would love to hear it.
Yeah. I mean, I would love that, and that's one reason too. Like having the in-person podcast is really helpful in that sense, because we can have an even bigger conversation. So I'll keep looking.